Hello folks, Wheels of Mercury here, and today we're going to talk about the releases I loved in the winter of 2023 and early 2024. Now this covers a time span from roughly December of 2023 to March 19th of 2024, around the time of the spring or vernal equinox. So all the records that I'm going to talk about in this video, aside from the growers and outliers, came out during that time period. Without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into the list, starting with Bow of Apis, Bow of Bronze, sophomore album, the Fractal Ouroboros. This is a black metal band from Denver, Colorado, and they have a very ritualistic black metal sound. Their lyrics are very much about trying to really live in a harsh reality of class divisions and stuff that really make life hard in the 21st century. You know, there's a lot of build up and breakdown in their sound, and the sound really flows. It's got really long compositions that go up to like 11 to like 15 minutes in length. Yeah, it's an hour long of black metal, so just keep that in mind if you're gonna listen to it. But it's a great album. Next is Hell, Fire, and Damnation by Saxon, the long-running British heavy metal group. These guys have been going since 1975, and this is like the 20th, 21st, 22nd, I don't know, in that realm, maybe 25th or 26th, I don't know. What I know is that these guys still sound like they're in their like freaking 30s, and like, it's a good album. And they're not afraid to have a little fun by having the guy from Flash Gordon open up their album and to have fun with, you know, there was a song called It Happened in Roswell or something like that. I think that's a fun song, and they don't take themselves too seriously, which I love. I love it when bands realize that metal can be fun and not so serious. Anyways, yeah, Saxon just proves that, to me, 2024, what's old is new again. And there's another British heavy metal band that I'm going to talk about later on in the video that, yeah, you'll probably know who it is. Next up is Master with their album Saint Dispelled. This is a late 80s death metal band doing their style best. They have a style similar to Obituary. You know, that kind of Celtic Frost inspired death metal style. But whereas John Tardy from that group had that sort of growl, this guy from Master has a sort of necrotic Nick from Swords of Metal said it best. John Tardy sounds like he's throwing up from here when he sings. But this guy from Master sounds like he's throwing up in his mouth when he sings. So, different techniques right there for death metal vocals. So yeah, if you like old school death metal done the old school way, check out Master. Next up is a band that I grew up listening to, and was the formation of my musical taste in guitar music. And that is Green Day with their album Saviors. This was a good throwback album for me. This is a good trip down memory lane. It's not the best Green Day album. It's still American Idiot is the best Green Day album for me. If you don't stack it up against American Idiot or Dookie and just, you know, enjoy it for what it is, yeah, it's fun. It's fine. I have fun with it. Next up is another pop punk record that I had to shout out. The Punk Hasturian for Get Me Into. Thank you to the Punk Hasturian. If you guys want to watch videos on punk rock, go watch him. I'll have the link to his channel in the description. And he introduced me to Fabled Mind with their album Project Paradise. Now just imagine if Sum 41 was into like King Crimson and all that, and you get this Fabled Mind album. Tons of metal influence, tons of prog rock influence, and it's got a few twists and turns that are really fresh and inventive, and the concept is really done really well. So yeah, if you're looking for pop punk that is a bit heavy and like isn't afraid to shake up the pop punk formula, yeah, check out Fabled Mind. It's a great record. Next up is Writhen Hilt with their debut EP, Ancient Sword Cult. So this band is from Germany, and they do traditional epic heavy metal in the vein of like Visigoth, Eternal Champion, Manila Road. Yeah, bands like that. Bands that have that raw sort of sound, but have the singer that's like not a great singer, but like he has a charm to it. And yeah, Writhen Hilt, great little traditional heavy metal EP. I got quite a few people in the Angry Metal Guy Discord channel into it. It's a great little EP, check it out. Next up, we're going into black metal territory for the next 4 or 5 albums. Starting off with Morvigor with their EP Dispelled. These guys are from Holland, aka the Netherlands. They have like this melodic / atmospheric black metal sound that pulls from everybody from Enslaved, Death Heaven, and other bands like that. The 2 songs on here are really dynamic, and they never feel boring, and they pull all these influences together in such an amazing way. Yeah, this album, EP I mean, is well worth your time. Check it out. So next up is the US by way of Belgian black metal band Hulder with Verses and Oaths. Now, I heard this album being called overrated. I disagree. I really like the album. I really like the album, and Mars, she is a very good black metal vocalist, and she is able to wrangle these catchy melodies and stuff and really make them work. It was one of my favorite black metal albums of the winter of 23/24. But the best black metal album I heard during that time period would have to go to Vemod with The Deepening. This is this Norwegian band's first album in like 11-12 years. They were a big influence on Austin Lund of Panopticon fame. And they have this style that reminds me of a certain Ukrainian band. You probably all know that starts with a D. But they do it in their own style, and they have a lot of Joy Division-esque post-punk bass parts in there too that really make the whole thing come together. And the shimmering atmosphere, oh, it's just really good. Yeah, so Vemod The Deepening is a really good atmospheric black metal record. Next up is Andracca with To Bear the Weight of Death. I don't know why it is spelled B-A-R-E. Isn't that meant to be spelled B-E-A-R? You guys are from England. Or maybe it's Old English. I don't know. Anyways, this Andracca album is really good too. The only issue I have with it is the weird kind of, I don't know, crispy production? Compressed production? You know what I mean? Like, it just sort of sounds like everything's like airtight and compressed. And it just, I don't know, it just has a weird production style. I like the album regardless. And they're also on Vendetta Records, so that's cool. Next up, we're going to Ireland. Hasturian Vigil with their debut album, Unveiling the Brac'thal. Now this is black metal I love. The first wave meets the second wave. Things like Mortuary Drape, Negative Plane, Funeral Presence, and bands like that. They just take the Merciful Fate sound, and instead of having King Diamond's weird wailing vocals that I'm not a fan of, they have black metal shrieks. which I am a fan of. And it's just like 32 minutes long, so it's pretty short. And I really like albums that are short like that. They just get in and get out. And I love the atmosphere around Hasturian Vigil too. It actually does remind me of Mortuary Drake's last album that I loved from last year. So yeah, Hasturian Vigil. If you're looking for traditional metal-inspired black metal, go check this out. It's really good. So now we're gonna get into a couple records that are not metal. And I listen to other stuff too, if you can believe it. The first off is MGMT with their album Loss of Life. Now you might recognize MGMT from Time to Put Down. Well, this doesn't sound like that song at all. It actually sounds like the Beatles, Pink Floyd, Beach Boys, and stuff like that, but with updated lyrics reflecting our modern times. It's a really peaceful album. I've got a starlight, a galaxy lamp over there, and one night I was listening to this album with the galaxy light and the stars and all that shining up on the ceiling, and it fit perfectly. It was the perfect soundtrack to it. Man, that's a memory I won't forget anytime soon from this new MGMT album. It's fantastic. Go listen to it. Next up is an artist I just recently saw live. Brittany Howard of Alabama Shakes fame in her second full-length studio album, What Now? She has a killer voice. She is just sort of blurring genre lines with this album. Trip hop, soul, rock, electronic, it's just amazing. And I appreciate that in between the actual songs, there's little snippets of like Brian Eno-esque ambience in between the songs. It really makes me appreciate the album more. Just sort of pulls it together in a cohesive package, and the album just works, you know. It's a great record. But if you're expecting Alabama Shakes, you're not gonna get it here, but it's a great record regardless. Check it out. Last up, I said two, but it was actually three. Three non-metal albums. The Last Dinner Party was their album Prelude to Ecstasy. Now, a lot of ink has been spilled and a lot of discussions have been made online about, oh my god, the rich people making music. I'm just like, God, can you just be quiet and just listen to the album and see what you think? Cause I really like this album. I really do. They have catchy melodies on its string arrangements in the intro to the whole album, and they can play. It's not an all-female band. There's one non-binary person in the group, but they can all play. If you set aside your preconceptions about, oh, rich people making music, oh my god. Yeah, if you set aside your preconceptions and just listen to it, it might surprise you. Alright, we're going back to metal now with Mistreater and the debut album Razor Wire. This is a very old school sounding 80s style heavy metal / hard rock album in the vein of Wasp or very early Motley Crue, think Shout at the Devil and Too Fast for Love. And it's just a fun time. If you like those first two Motley Crue records and like the first Wasp record from back in the day, yeah, that's a fun time. Hands of Goro was their debut self-titled record. This band worships Motorhead. It's undeniable. This band worships Motorhead and has a punk influence and also influence from the Lord Weird Slowfag, if you've ever heard of that band, because it has members from Slowfag in that band. So pretty good, and I really enjoyed the Hands of Goro record because it was really fun to listen to. Next up is Loom, spelled LVME was their album of Sinful Nature. This is a mysterious black metal band that has not disclosed where they're located or who they are. But what does it matter when the music is good like this, right? They play in this sort of winding, complex style that bands like Brac'thal play in. The drum performance is very, like, the 9 circles of hell. Like it got that sort of cyclical madness to the drum performance. And the vocals are pretty evil sounding. If you like that sort of twisted, angular sort of black metal, inspired by a certain French band, check out the new album by Loom. Next up is Volcandra with their album The Way of Ancient. This is a band from Louisville, Kentucky that plays a melodic black and death metal style, similar to a certain Swedish band, but also to bands like Volcandra and Stormkeep and bands like that, and Moonlight Sorcery, but without a lot of the power metal influence of that band. Yeah, it's good. I really like the shimmering melodic guitar tone and stuff like that. Vocals can get a little bit annoying, especially when they're done in rapid succession. Yeah, it's a great melodic black metal / melodic death metal record. If you're looking for more of that, here's more of that. Next up is Borknagar with their latest album, Fall. Now this progressive black metal band has been going since the mid-90s. And if the rest of their discography is anything like this, wow. This is one of the best albums I've heard all year. I really love that the black metal and the progressive rock influences sort of work in harmony with each other. And also, I've got that one song stuck in my head, one of the singles called Nordic Anthem, stuck in my head. It's so catchy. I don't know if this was an intentional or unintentional, but it actually reminds me of something Zero and Ouroboros would do. I don't know if they know Zero and Ouroboros. If they do, that's really cool. But if they don't, it's probably a funny coincidence, because it sounds like Zero and Ouroboros. Anyways, yeah, this Borknagar album is pretty good. Next up is the self-titled album by black metal legend Ethan, also the half-brother of Einar Solberg from Leprous. And this is a symphonic black metal album with the symphony part inspired by people like John Williams and stuff like that. This is the closest we'll get to In the Nightside Eclipse and Anthem to the World and at Dusk. Like, if you want any album to come close to this, here you go. This is it. The orchestrations are amazing. Ethan's screams are ferocious as ever. And he's not a bad singer at all. He's not as good as his half-brother, but he's not bad. But, you know, the main star of the show is the orchestration. Holy moly. How he's able to really compose all that. He's just a genius, man. Yeah, one of the best albums of the year. Next up is probably the death metal album of the year for me so far. Job for a Cowboy with Moonhealer. This is a band that was part of my formative years of getting into deathcore and death metal. I remember hearing them way back in the day when somebody showed me Knee Deep and I was like, what is this? This is crazy! To watch them go from scrappy deathcore to like atheist / cynic inspired progressive death metal is inspiring. The freaking bassist, how he does those like lap bass and the runs he does, it's just unbelievable. They're also unbelievably talented, and if they do a North American tour, I'm getting those tickets. I want to see this stuff performed live. I'm honest that it would blow my mind. Yeah, best death metal album of the year so far. There might be a death metal album that might beat this though. But you're gonna have to stay tuned to watch the next Releases I Love video, which might be coming out in June or July. That's my little hint as to what the other death metal album might be. Last but not least, Judas Priest with Invincible Shield. This is my album of the year so far. Remember when I said that 2024, old is new again with Saxon? Well, that also is the case with Judas Priest. The metal gods, they're back. Rob Halford sounds freaking incredible for 73 years old. I know the album's overbloated, especially the deluxe edition at like 53 minutes. But I can't even complain when all the songs are so good. Like Trial by Fire and Panic Attack, and the guitar solos are on point, the drumming is great. Scott Travis is bringing out his inner painkiller energy. Oh, it's just so good. You know, Judas Priest might be my album of the year so far in like every category of metal. It's incredible. Do I even need to tell you to go listen to Judas Priest? You probably either go listen to it if you haven't heard it yet, because just go do it. Okay, enough talking about Judas Priest. We're going to the Growers and Outliers section. These are records that either didn't come out during that timeline or it took a bit to grow on me. So to start off is Darkest Era, metal band from Northern Ireland, with their latest album Wither on the Vine from 2022. These guys sort of remind me of Evergrey. They have a dark, sort of lightly extreme metal influence kind of sound. People have compared them to Primordial, but I think they're more like Evergrey to me, especially the vocalist. He has a fantastic voice. And I love the little flurry of blast beats and slight like death and black metal influence in the drumming. It really gives it a fresh spin on like sad boy, aggressive / traditional heavy metal. It's an intersection of a lot of genres, a lot of subgenres of metal. And fun fact, this was the last album I listened to in 2023 as the clock ticked down to midnight. After that, I would actually have a little bit of a hiatus from metal, believe it or not, into country. Starting off with the self-titled album from Zach Bryan. Yeah, this is such a personal and like emotional record, and I can't believe this went to #1 in the US. I can't believe it. It's such a emotional, and the stories are emotional too, and it's such a, I can't even find words to describe it. It's got such a warmth to it. It's got such a homespun DIY sort of feel to it that it's a miracle that this went to freaking #1 in the US. I still can't believe it. After all the bullcrap we had to deal with Florida Georgia Line and Jason Aldean and all the bro country crap, and this goes to #1, this makes my heart happy for the future of country if this can go to #1. Next up is another country artist I listened to in the early days of 2024, and that is Rustin Kelly with Shape and Destroy. Now this is a country artist influenced by emo and pop punk more than traditional country, so he has his own spin on that style. Shape and Destroy has a lot of good songs on it. Radio Cloud is a very catchy song. I also listened to the follow-up album, which is not as good as Shape and Destroy. Shape and Destroy has better songs and is overall more cohesive. Speaking of emo album, Spanish Love Song, No Joy. I also listened to this during the early days of 2024. Their previous album, I didn't really talk about on Wheels of Mercury because it was way too emotional for me to bring up. It had lines on there that I would just cry my eyes out to. However, this one is way more danceable. It's a little more positive. It's still emotional, but it's a little more positive. And I like that. I like that they cranked up the dance elements on this one. So, yeah, a good album. Grouper, AIA, Alien Observer. Now this album came out all the way back in 2008, but this is an ambient album with the production of a raw black metal album. It is strangely beautiful. When I listen to it late at night, it just fits the nighttime hours perfect. The melodies are haunting and enchanting and so beautiful, and it's just the raw, super raw production brings it all together, and it's just sort of a fuzzy, beautiful, sort of otherworldly. If you like your ambient music raw and unfiltered, but beautiful. I think for people who like depressive silence, the Dungeon Synth artists will find something to like with this Grouper album. So, if you like raw ambient, check this out. Last up is a band that I've been working backwards in the discography with, and that is the Christian rock band Witch Hazel with 3 Pentacons. I've been liking this album too from Witch Hazel. It's very catchy, just like the album that came out last year that I love. One of my favorite albums of the year. But this album is also catchy, and it has all the Christian motifs. I think it even has a Bible verse in it too, but who cares when the music is so good? Again, like with the last album, if you have a family member that's very, very religious and, you know, certain beliefs against certain genres of music and calling them like the devil's music and stuff like that, show them this band. Like they're all bands that are Christian, that does this style of music. Whether you're Christian or not, this album is still a great time with catchy guitar melodies and stuff. Yeah, don't let the Christian lyrics drag you away from it, because it is so catchy and it is so good. And that's where I'm leaving it off, with Witch Hazel Pentagon. Thank you everybody for tuning in to this Releases I Loved video for the winter of 2023/24. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Wheels of Mercury today. Rock on guys, and I'll see you in the next video.